Hello, everybody. Welcome to a moment of clarity. Hope you all are doing well out there. Hopefully, I'll have a little time to answer some questions at the end of this moment of clarity. But let's get into it. Big news from Bloomberg. They had a screaming headline today. Quote, big companies urge Biden and Congress to address climate change. And you read that. And I think the average person thinks, oh my God, we've finally done it. We finally gotten big business to care about our boiling planet. We did it. And then you break into Queen. We are the champions. No time for losers. That's exactly how he sounded. Or you could sing the one about the fat bottom girls. Either one will work. And you think, I can't believe we did it. As the globe's temperature skyrockets, as every month is the hottest of that month on record, as California changed their state plant to a pile of ash, we've finally gotten big business to demand change. The tops of these companies may be complete ball bags, but at least they now care that their ball bags are getting a little hot, a little steamy in there. So you think to yourself, I wonder what it is these companies are demanding of our recently elected and subtly decomposing president. Are they demanding all cars and jets be taken off the roads and off the sky roads? Are they demanding to disband their own horribly polluting companies? Are they demanding to the end of deforestation? Are they demanding the end to the actual largest producer of greenhouse gas emissions on the planet, animal agriculture? Are they demanding a stop to the organization that emits more greenhouse gases than any other, the U.S. military? What amazing things are they demanding? I'll take just one of those that I listed. And then you read the subheading of the article, quote, Amazon, Citigroup, Ford, and others support a U.S. return to the Paris Accord from which Trump withdrew. Well, I'll say it sure will be peaches and sunshine from here on out. Joe Biden is being pressured by big business to return to the Paris Climate Agreement, which for those of you just tuning in, who just got televisions, who just taken a peek at what's going on in the world, the Paris Climate Agreement is basically completely meaningless. It has no enforcement mechanisms. When it was signed by big banks and big banks and big business and big corrupt politicians, they were all fucking high-fiving with confetti and sucking and fucking each other in whatever exotic hotel they were staying in Paris. The agreement's goals are not extreme enough to actually save the planet or even really change things almost at all. And nearly every country that has remained in it, unlike the U.S. has left, right? Nearly every country that is still in the deal has not actually achieved the goals they promised to. So what the fuck does it matter if we're in an agreement that no one actually abides by? It's almost better to be out of it so that everyone can see, yeah, you don't give a shit about having a livable future. At least people can point to it and go, see, I told you they don't give a shit. But that's the whole point. The Paris Climate Agreement is meant to make people think big business and neoliberal governments care about the boiling earth. They don't, but it looks like they do. It's like taking a zombie and dressing him up in a tuxedo and then saying, see, he's changed. He's changed his ways. Meanwhile, you're looking at the head and it's still going. And you're thinking, I don't care how nice his fucking cummerbund is. I'm going to judge him by the look in his eyes, the ones he's munching on. Side note, what in all hell is a cummerbund? Why do we have to wear that fucking thing when we went to prom or whatever else? What does it have to do with looking nice? I think cummerbuns was actually the first porn I ever saw, though. I do recall that. Point being, These big businesses aren't really going to change their ways. They don't want anything to substantively change. They want it to look like they changed. They are still the zombie in the tuxedo. They want it to appear to be different so that activists won't keep getting in the way of business as usual, so that it won't keep hurting their brand. The Bloomberg article says 40 companies signed a letter urging Biden to deal with climate change and rejoin the Paris Agreement. Quote, the letter doesn't detail any specific action plan or policy proposals, but it is the latest indication that a significant cohort of corporate America is lining up with environmentalists on climate change. No, they aren't lining up with environmentalists. Are they fighting pipelines? Are they sitting in front of digging machines at mountaintop removal sites? Are they demanding big banks divest from dirty energy projects? How many CEOs have you seen sticking red paint handprints on the bank windows? I mean, hell, they already have blood on their hands. It would be easy for them, and it'd save money on paint. They aren't standing with environmentalists unless you mean the big green environmentalists, the big capitalism environmentalists. Anyone telling you that we can solve this problem using capitalism is lying to you. The solutions cannot come from the fucking machine that created the problem. If your roommate decided to house 42 mangy homeless dogs in your house, and the house started to stink and look dirty and disgusting, and it was filled with fleas and dog piss, and you finally said to your roommate, this is revolting. I can't take it. This is not sustainable. This is not livable. We need to solve the problem of how fucked up this house is. And your roommate said, okay, I've got it. Let's bring in 7 more homeless dogs to look after the 42 we have. Would that be cool with you? No. You'd probably think, we can't solve the problem by using the thing that caused the problem. And the same goes for capitalism. You cannot use it to fix itself. That's why things like cap and trade, you've heard about cap and trade, right? That's why things like cap and trade are bullshit. Asking companies to pay to pollute will not stop pollution. It will just mean the bigger companies have more money so they can pay to pollute more. So absolutely, put in all the restrictions you can on big businesses. Do it now. Do it now. Do it fast. Do it hard. All the restrictions you can. It may buy us a few extra years before our extinction. But if you really want to save this planet for your kids and your grandkids and your adorable dogs and the slime mold you've named Howard and you're in love with, if you really want to leave a livable planet for all those things, then we need an economic system that accounts for the environment, accounts for clean air and water, accounts for the bees and the caterpillars and the flying bird-like things, all of them, flies, whatever, any flies you want to name, whatever you want to name. And it should reward, the economic system should reward health and happiness and equality, not just domination and greed and control. So when you see a grandma who's chained herself to construction equipment to try to stop another pipeline, and you wonder why she's done such a thing, this is why. She did it because she has a fucking slime mold she cares about, or a grandkid. But human children are pretty horrifying. So what's the difference, really? All right, I'm going to conclude with actually a quote from Peter Joseph's his book called The New Human Rights Movement. I'd say one of the most important books ever written. Here's a quote after he talks about how the Paris Agreement, the Kyoto Protocol, they've all been largely meaningless. Basically, none of the goals have been achieved. And the Kyoto Protocol was supposed to have enforcement mechanisms. It didn't fucking matter. Canada just decided once they got to the point that their enforcement, rather than pay the fine for not doing the Kyoto Protocol goals, not achieving them, rather than pay the multi-billion-dollar fine, they just pulled out of the Kyoto Protocol. So, and the U.S., I believe, never signed it. So there you go. That's how effective that one was. And that one supposedly had things to hold countries accountable. But in response to how disastrous all of these plans and agreements have been, Peter Joseph says, should we be surprised by any of this? Again, the entire ethic of conservation, efficiency, and in effect, sustainability itself moves against the structural nature of market economics. No matter what the long-term threat may be, people's most immediate sense of security comes from ensuring their next paycheck or their next business opportunity. There will always be a seemingly rational justification to disregard larger order eco-social factors. In other words, market logic has everyone backed into a corner, forcing short-term preservation at the cost of long-term destruction. So yeah, I think that sums it up. And that's been your moment of clarity. Please share this. If you feel it's important, please share it with people. And please hit the subscribe button. But let's see if you guys have anything to say. And I will try and address some of these. Let's see. That book is brilliant. Thank you on behalf of Peter. I'm not thanking you like I wrote the book. Yeah, yes, thank you for this book Peter wrote. Actually, he makes to say one more thing. He makes a great point also in that book, which is that people are back to a quarter. The reason more people aren't active about this shit is because they're worried about the next paycheck, right? They're worried where how am I gonna afford my life? And there's different levels of poverty, right? There's extreme abject poverty where people are fucking living on the streets, truly can't feed their kid. But there's a level of poverty in which people may know where their next meal is coming from. They may be able to feed their family, but they're still trying to afford rent. They're trying to afford student debt. They're trying to afford health insurance. And there's that form of poverty where people are like, well, yeah, I could go out and be a protester, or I can fucking get to work and get paid so that I can afford those things. And that system of wage slavery actually makes sure people don't fight the system. It is beneficial to stopping the actual anger and fury against the system, because most people don't have the time or the energy to fucking fight back. It really is. I mean, you got to hand them that. It's a brilliant way to stop any kind of pushback. Let's see. Gene is asking whether I am the person Josh Fox is accused of being a Russian infiltrator. Yes, I am the great dastardly, according to Josh Fox, Russian infiltrator. I covered it in the last Moment of Clarity. You guys can go back and watch that one, but it's pretty hilarious. Somehow we're infiltrators, but we're also Russian agents. But also, I've been working with Vladimir Putin and Max Blumenthal and Katie Halper to go after Josh Fox. So yeah. I mean, if you really want to get to the heart of it, just go read the Gray Zone article about Planet of the Humans, and you will learn everything you need to know about it. And nothing in that article has ever been, as far as I know, has ever been refuted by Josh Fox or Bill McKibben or any of them. So read the article, and none of it's refuted. It's all fucking facts, and the Gray Zone does great work. So once you've read that article, then I feel like you'll know exactly what the fuck's going on if you care about that topic. Let's see. Anybody else got questions or thoughts? Worldwide Freedom Rally. I don't know what that is, but Terry would like people to go. Wow, I don't know how to pronounce that. Mordenon is saying, Lee, you forgot Israel. Nothing is Israel's fault. Actually, I talk about Israel all the time. A lot of things are Israel's fault. This episode happened to be about climate change and corporations, but yeah, Israel just assassinated another one of Iran's nuclear scientists. it's terrorism. It's horrific. It's also it's trying to push Iran towards war. What the Trump and Pompeo and fucking even John Bolton, even though he's not in the administration anymore, but Mike Pence, what they're all, and Netanyahu, of course, what they're all hoping for is war with Iran. They want to push Iran into something where they can be justified in some sort of full-on attack. Of course, it would be fucking horrific. If there was any war with Iran, it would be far worse than Iraq. By the time we attacked Iraq, it basically had no military. Now, of course, we went on to slaughter 1 million of their people, and mainly innocent civilians over the next several years. But there was no fight back against Iraq. With Iran, they're actually a large, fairly powerful country with a fairly large military, and it would be fucking horrific what would happen. So the idea that anyone should be cheering for that is terrifying. What Israel does by assassinating these scientists is terrorism, straight up, simple terrorism. It shouldn't be called anything else. When you look at your mainstream media and they talk about it, they should call it terrorism. Of course, they won't. They'll act like, oh, it was justified. I mean, could you imagine trying to justify assassinating a scientist? And they've done it many times. They've assassinated many of these scientists. Also, I should point out that there's been no evidence that Iran has tried to create nuclear weapons. Besides the fact that, of course, what gives us and nuclear Israel and nuclear Russia the right to decide who gets nuclear weapons? But let's move beyond that argument. There's been nothing showing that Iran was actually trying to create nuclear weapons. They want nuclear power because it powers their country. So and as many people have said, if Iran wanted weapons of mass destruction, such as chemical weapons, if they truly wanted these things, they would have them. They're not so dumb that they couldn't get large-scale, awful chemical weapons and things like that. But they choose not to use those. People far smarter than me, who are experts on Iran and experts on the religions that are practiced there, say that it's simply they find it morally wrong to use wide-scale weapons of mass destruction, such as nuclear weapons, such as chemical weapons, and so that's why they don't use them. It's not like they just have been trying so hard to get a nuclear weapon and they just can't do it. Anyway, so that's yet another point that needs to be made. Let's see. Cyber Hugs would like to thank me for talking so loud so he doesn't have to use he or she doesn't have to use the speakers. That is my service to you. I'm trying to save on your electricity bill. Everybody can unplug their speakers and still hear me. So really, I'm here for you. I am. I'm trying to say, it may seem like a little bit, but it's incredibly important. Tony DeMeo is asking what cap and trade is. So cap and trade was this idea that, believe it or not, many of the kind of large-scale capitalist environmentalists, the big green entities, supported and started promoting for years, saying it was the answer to climate change. It's how we're going to deal with the greenhouse gas emissions. And it basically is saying there'd be a limit to the amount of carbon dioxide that can be pumped into the air, and companies could pay to other companies to get their allotment of this carbon dioxide, and then they could emit it. But it's horseshit. It's never been proven to work. It's never decreased emissions. Many countries, many countries, I believe, in Europe signed on to some cap and trade agreements, and it wasn't proven to really decrease their emissions by much. So it's trying to use, basically it was to get environmentalists and activists to shut up and to try and use capitalism to solve capitalism, to solve the problems of capitalism, which never works, as I tried to make clear in this moment of clarity. And that's what cap and trade is. And most luckily, it's mostly faded, but it was created. The idea of cap and trade was created by like a right-wing think tanks. Big oil was behind it really from the beginning. So anyway, let's see here. Da, da, da. Do I think Jared Cena wants to know, do I think MPP, meaning Movement for a People's Party, can really pull through? Or do you think it will come down to mass civil disobedience no matter what? So I support MPP. I think Movement for a People's Party is a good idea. And I think that, hopefully down the road it could achieve something. And even if it doesn't get a lot of people into office, you'll notice that a lot of the important ideas that are being spread across the country, that are rippling across the country like a wave, are come from third parties that are not actually in office. I mean, they come largely from the Green Party and others. Things like the Green New Deal and things like Medicare for All. These things came from Green Party, third party candidates. They were then pushed into the national dialogue, and they have created a mass of activism behind these ideas. So third parties and people outside of the two corporate parties can have an impact, can have a fucking ripple effect through this country, around the world, whether they're actually in office or not. So that's yet another reason that I support Movement for a People's Party, even if they, let's say, ultimately don't have that many people in Congress. I think that they could help break up the two-party duopoly that owns our system, the oligarchs that own our system. If they just get a wedge in there and attract some support, they could help break it up. So I support it on that front. But in terms of your question of whether I think, MPP is going to save the world, no, I do think it's going to come down to civil disobedience, large-scale protest, combined with creating the systems that are the alternatives. I know that's not easy. I know that the forces of evil, aka the forces of capitalism, will always try and crush those things that get in the way of their profit, that get in the way of their greed, that get in the way of the exploitation of the resources around this world. They will always stand up and undercut those who threaten them. So I realize that creating the alternative systems is not easy, but I think that that's where hope comes from. It is things like mutual aid. It is people building tiny homes for the homeless. It is, people just saying, here, not everything needs to be about profit. Not everything needs to be about exploitation. Not everything needs to be about dominating others. There are those of us in this world who think that it should be about something more. Life should be about something more. And so I think that those type of ideas, those types of beliefs are what will ultimately change this country and this world. Not one political party or another, but like I said at the beginning of this, I support MPP, and I think they could have an impact. A lot of these things that I think could have an impact, like say Bitcoin, are not the solutions. They're just one little tool in the toolbox. They are, if unfettered destruction-centered capitalism is to ever collapse, it will be death by a million bee stings. So I hope to be one of those bee stings, and hopefully MPP can be one of them, and hopefully Bitcoin can, and all of these things come together to slowly do the damage that is necessary. And also, if it's death by a million bee stings, that will mean the bees are still alive. So that's exciting. That'd be great. All right, what else do we have? Thank you, Gene. Let's see. Marty Castle Jr. asked, would you agree that capitalism has become its own cult, with the time of the poor and the misfortunate being sacrificed for the powers that be? Yeah, absolutely. Capitalism has become a cult in I think more ways than it initially was. I think that now it's become a cult. It's moved to the place where it cannot be even discussed. Like if you go into a cult like Scientology or something, and you try and say, hey, let's talk about why these things are this way. Let's talk about why Scientology feels the need to separate everyone from their families, and then if they leave the church, to then follow them around and harass them. Like if you go in and just say, let's talk about this, they say, you can't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Because you talk about it, and people realize it's indefensible. Like it's not a debate they can have. The debate is moot. which was a word I love because moot means both arguable and inarguable. So really, it means nothing, which means that the debate on moot is moot. I hope you like that one. But yeah, so you go into a call and you say, let's discuss this stuff. And they say, we can't talk about it. And that's how it's become with capitalism. You just have the discussions I'm having with you, and they won't let you on mainstream airwaves. They won't put you on panels. They won't let you to talk. They won't allow you to talk on the larger platforms because it's dangerous. You can't, if you start talking about the heart of capitalism, start analyzing it, start getting into it, then people start waking up, people start asking questions, and capitalism it's a fucking exploitation machine that is right now on kind of a rickety foundation, and asking those questions is just continually little pushes, and it can't answer them. And it's why one of the only times you ever saw the word capitalism even come up was in that famous debate moment or whatever, town hall moment, where somehow this question got through, and one of the people, one of the kids stood up and said, hey, Nancy Pelosi, the polls show that over 50% of young people believe capitalism is not the best system. And Nancy Pelosi, rather than engage in some sort of dialogue, just goes, we're capitalists. Thank you. And moved on, because that was all you can say. It is a cult that cannot withstand analyzation. Anyway, on that point, I have got to get running, but thank you guys for hanging out. Please share this. Please hit subscribe. Also, I do these almost every single weekday, except sometimes. And you can check them out at leecamp.com. And speaking of books, so I mentioned the new human rights movement and Peter Joseph, but also, and this shows how bad of a capitalist I am, my book, Bullet Points and Punchlines, it's a small indie publisher called PM Press, and they are making it 50% off right now. So I think that's nearly at cost, 50% off, which I don't know what that means, $7 or something. And it's at PM Press. You got to use the coupon code GIFT, GIFT. Okay, thanks a lot. Join me tomorrow and check out my podcast, 2 podcasts, Common Censored and Government Secrets. Okay, thanks, everybody. Keep fighting.